years ago?
Yeah.
I just reviewed my notes from 2015 this morning. I was looking at it before I came here. And I wanted to disagree with myself. I decided to agree with myself. And the point is like this.
You talk to yourself and you answer.
And my answer, I talk to myself. I talk to myself all the time.
Yeah, but if you answer,
and I answer, my wife, she lives me well. She's away at the moment. My wife often will catch me in a complicated debate with myself. My wife, yes, you know what you're talking about. Oh no, I don't argue all the sides. My wife just starts laughing because I don't realize that I'm in the middle of a debate. In any case, the reason I made that point was this. First of all, where are we? We are
4 lines from the bottom, Summit Base.
Summit Base, 4 lines from the bottom. We're about to start with what? With the paragraph that says Itmar? Summit Base, Summit Base we are?
Yeah.
Base, Itmar. Right. Right, Itmar. So I'm going to explain something outside, and then it'll make sense inside. Today, again, you just have to hold your hat on. There's a lot of movement to today's page. In general, when we have a tradition, we assume that the tradition is correct. It was checked out. So, for example, if we have a famous, let's say, difficulty with a Mishnah from earlier times, and a later rabbi says something that obviates that difficulty, ironically, we attack the later rabbi because we say that the earlier rabbis who had the difficulty must have taken his opinion into account and rejected it. So ironically, no, it's because we have a tradition that there is a problem, we say the problem's got to be a little bit legitimate problem. And if you solved it, you are contradicting your sources, your rabbis. You contradict the earlier rabbis. It's a very strange thing. Yes, it is. That's correct. That's what, and first of all, you're 100% correct. Nevertheless, there are certain. Remember, we said when is the halacha kibas raw? So long as the earlier rabbis didn't agree. But when the earlier rabbis met and traded their opinions and came to a conclusion, then the halacha follows the earlier rabbis. That's the opinion, and that's why only from the time that the rabbis stopped meeting together did the halacha start to follow the later one. So this would not be in contradiction to that, because what we're saying is essentially it was agreed by the earlier rabbis that there's such and such a problem. Okay, today's Gemara, you can read it more than one way. I'm going to read it the way that I told you, and I admit that you could argue. I admit that you can argue with it. So here we're going to say, listen, we have a famous problem, and it's going to come out that the present day teaching for the Gemara is obviating the problem, and we don't want that to happen. So it's Itmar. We learned the following. Haveli Gitti, okay, we said that a person said, the lady said, bring me my get. And then the shliach said, your wife said that I should receive the get. With the opposite, remember like I had yesterday. He says he's supposed to be a shliach to take it, and she told him to accept it. And the husband said, Heilach Kamosha Amra, here it is for you, as she spoke. Amrav Nachman Ravu Amarav, Afilu get the other. So he said, Rav Nachman said, even if she gets the get, Ein Megureshes, she is not divorced. Now, the Gemara assumes that it understands Rav Nachman and analyzes it. It says, Shmamino must be what? Adibura Didei Kosamech. It must be that he solves the famous query. When there's a discrepancy between the sender and the shaliach, and the person says, I transact as you were instructed, do we listen to, we don't know, do we listen to the instruction, does he mean the instructions of the sender, or the instructions of the sender as misinterpreted by the proxy? So here it must be what, since he said it's no good, adibura didei kosama, it must be that he relied on he relied on the shaliach's.
And he lost
and the shliach, and since the shliach said what? Since the shliach said what? He was a shliach Kabbalah, which he can't be because the woman didn't appoint him, and the husband's giving it to him as a shliach Kabbalah recipient. So you see that you've solved Rav Nachman by saying that the get is no good, has solved a standing query, which we assume is not solved. Okay, the word because if he was really relying on her word, who said that he should be a carrier, At least when the get would reach her hand, she would be divorced. So you see that Rav Nachman has solved the problem. We don't like that. Okay. Amar Ravashi says no. What kind of comparison is that? You can't compare our case to the case that we asked the query in. Why? Had our case been the opposite case, you would have had the opportunity to see him solving the query. For example, had it be his kabbaligiti, if she had said, be a recipient, she said to the proxy. And the shliach said, what?
Give me the get.
I'm supposed to carry the get. Okay, but who and the husband said, hey, here, I give it to you as per her instructions. And then he had said, came she get the other if he had said when she receives it, she is divorced. Alma, I would see clearly he's relying on her true words. Why? Because she said be what? Be a carrier. And he listened to her. Inami, or alternative, had Rav Nachman said, the other, if he said that the get is good, the second it reaches their hand, then we see clearly that Rav Nachman is holding what? That he's following the instructions of who? Of the shliach. Okay, Elahacha, but over here in our case, you're making a mistake. There's no way to know what Rav Nachman really holds about our famous queer. Why? Because what happened was she said what? She said be a shliach to carry the get. He said I'm a shliach to receive the get. And what's the problem? Say, if a person tells me to receive a get and I say I'll carry it, if I'm willing to carry it, I'm certainly willing to what? To receive it. But if a person tells me receive the get, carry the get, and I say I'll receive it, I could be saying, I don't care what happens, I'm not carrying it. I don't want to work so hard. And therefore what? Okay, we can say, no, the reason why the get is no good it's not because he listened to the shaliach. It's because the shaliach utterly rejected the instructions of the sender. Even if I would listen to the sender, he says, I won't do it. Why? Okay, he says, I'm only willing to do the work of receiving. I'm willing to be passive and accept it. I'm not getting on that bus and going any place. I'm not traveling. So therefore, the Gemara says, you can't prove that Rav Nachman, if it's a teretz, you cannot prove that Rav Nachman took a side in this apparently unsolved machlokas. Amrafuna Barchia, he said, Toshma, again, I'm gonna ask you a kasha. If you tell me that Rav Nachman holds that a guy who rejects, how can you tell me that if a guy changed it in a way that rejects it, that the husband can't have successfully sent it out? Didn't we learn almost kabel gets elishti? If a guy said to the shaliach, accept this get for my wife, holich gets elishti, or he said, take this get to my wife. Okay, Yachsar. In both cases, until the get he can renege. Why? He can renege until she gets it. One, because if he made him a carrier, he didn't get there yet.
He's a shliach of him.
Right. And if he made him receiver, he can go back because he can't appoint a receiver. Time of the Ratza, but we said something strange. The only reason he can go back is if he wants to hold the Ratza, but if he didn't want to go back, have a get. It's still a good get. Now, 1 second. Why is it a good get? The only way it can be a good get is if even though he said Kabbalah, that's still considered that he was a carrier. Why should it be a good get? The husband can't say receive the get. Why in that case is it a good get? The husband can't make a receiver. Or you're forced to say that the real principle is as follows. Amrinan came and Shanasan Einav Lagarsha. We say once a guy wants to divorce a wife, Meimer Amar, he says this of the Garsha, I want her divorced. I don't care what it takes, whatever it takes. What I'm saying is whatever it takes, get her out of here. She's divorced. Hachanami is there for what? So when if he by dint of the fact that he somehow deep down he knows he can't make a recipient. So when he said recipient, he really meant what? Do whatever's necessary. I'm making you a carrier. Take it, transport him. Hachanami here too. So we share Sakasha. How can Rav Nachman tell me because he said I'll receive it? That what?
That it's no
good. That he said I'll receive it, and he was rejecting. He was rejecting it. Okay, we should say Kevich and Asa in Garsha. Since the husband says I want to divorce her, let her be divorced. However it happened, and therefore what? Okay, he wants him. He, no matter what, the husband wants him to be a carrier. How on earth do you compare the two cases? Awesome over there in the case we talked about. When the husband, but when they should tell them the husband said receive it, he becomes a carrier. That we said for the reason I said to you. Every man somehow deep down, or will be corrected in a moment if we'll correct him. He knows he can't make a recipient. So by definition, he's giving it to him to what? Even though he said carry, receive, he means carry. But over here, he's being. In the case of Rav Nachman, the shaliach told him, "I am a receiver." So he didn't say, "Oh, I'm making a receiver." He didn't think he's making a receiver. He thinks that what? He thinks that the girl made the girl made him a receiver. He didn't think he mistakenly made the shliach a receiver. He thinks that the girl correctly made a receiver. So now you can't tell him, well, no matter what, he's appointing to be a carrier. He's taking the word of the shliach. Hachatoi made a mistake. So you can't ask the kasha to Rav Nachman. Amar Rava says Tashma. Again, I'm going to ask you a kasha to Rav Nachman. Katana Sha'amra is Kabbalah Giti, a minor girl who was married. No, she's married rabbinically. So she said to the shaliach, okay, she said, receive my get from my husband for me. Get it's not a good get until it gets to her. Why? Because she's a minor. She can't make any shaliach. So the only shaliach for what? Okay, so it has to be
his
now ki mati giti the other miyamagash. But we see that but when the get does get to her hand, okay, she is divorced. Why should she be divorced? Okay, so the husband didn't make that shliach. She said she made him a shliach of receiving, and the husband didn't make it a shliach of sending. Ella, so what? Okay, Amrita must be what you have to say. Since the husband's intention, he really intends to divorce her. He most certainly said, let her be divorced whatever it takes, and therefore what? So even though she may even though he knows we're countermanding what you just answered me. Even though he knows she made him a what? A recipient. He still is countermanding it and overriding it and making him what? A deliverer. Achinami here too say the same thing. Here too, even though he knows that it's impossible, that he knows he can't make him a shliach Kabbalah, okay, but he automatically is making him. Even though he believes, just like over here, the girl made him a Kabbalah and he overrode it. Oh, also there too, the shliach made him believe that he's a Kabbalah, still he overrides it. You can't compare the two cases. Hassam over there by the case of the girl, you know why he can override, countermand her appointing other miyodei. Everybody knows. I don't care what she called it, a taker, a recipient. That guy, the husband knows what that the shliach is not a shliach. She's a child. So by definition, he said that as a sender, that's all the husband can do. But over here, here he really believes what the shliach told him, that he is a Kabbalah guy. We can't say that when he believes the guy's a Kabbalah guy, that he by definition unspokenly overrode the case. Tashma, although you should know, in cases of money, we sometimes do say things like that. We do say that everything's a mistake, but whatever it was, the guy wanted the deal to go through. Don't worry. We'll come to that. We have a little way to go before we get to the Zikin. Yeah, we'll get there. Now, Tashma. Again, I want to ask the Kasha of Nachman. We learned in a brisa, Haveli Giti, the woman said, bring my get. And then he said, his Kabbalah Giti, he said, I'm a Kabbalah guy. His Kabbalah Giti, the opposite. She said, receive my get. Okay, and he said, what? Your wife told me to bring it. But who am I? The husband said, take it, go and give it to her. Take it and give it to her. Zachila, or acquire it for her. Oh, his Kabbalah, or receive it for her. Ratzalazar, yes, if he wants to go back, he can go back until she gets it. But once the get gets to him, Goresh is divorced. My love, when you told me when he said, receive it, accept it, or
take it.
When he said receive it, a Kabbalah, that's when the shliach told him that he was supposed to be okay. That the woman told me I'm a Kabbalah. The Allah, when he said take it, Allah, and when it's good, it's a good taker. It's when he told the husband that the wife said that he's a taker. So you see that what, and we see that what, that he is he is a taker, and only when it gets to the hand she's divorced. So it comes out that even where the husband said receive it, she is divorced, even though the husband can't make a recipient of a receiver. And therefore you're forced to say that even though he said receive it, what he really meant was what?
Take it.
He really meant take it. Like we say, whatever works. And therefore, if he's not going to be a taker, he's going to be a deliverer. So certainly in the case of Rav Nachman, where the husband said, take it as she said, so certainly it should work. Okay, so how can Rav Nachman say it doesn't work? Mar says no. He says you're wrong. That's not what the Brisa meant. You have the hookups wrong. Kabbalah halacha. Okay, it's like this. When the husband said receive it, it's when the wife said what, take it. Okay, okay. Halacha, when he said take it, a Kabbalah, it's when the wife said when the wife said receive it. So you have no kasha. I Kabbalah. Okay, 1 second. If we he says, if you tell me that the husband said halacha, that when the husband said accept it, it's when she said take it. Okay, then I have a kasha. Okay, why is it only get when it gets to her hand? That should be get immediately because what it's right. So from here we hear again. We're back. We solved the problem again. Now you're proving that what, that we follow the rendition of the shaliach and not the true rendition of what the woman said. No comparison. He says there's no you can't prove from the Brisa to us. Awesome. Okay, when the Gemara said, okay, that when a guy says take it like the here it is as the sender sent it, it means to say what? It means what the shliach said in his own name. Okay, and another okay, and if Rav Nachman was talking about where the woman said accept it, and the shliach said what? Take it, the kamarle, and the husband said, hey, take it like she says. Okay, take it like she says. Okay, take it like she said. Pardon me. Then you could prove the point. Okay, that we listened to the way the shliach spoke. But over here in the Brisa, ki kamerle, when the Baal said to the shliach, hey, when he said, here it is for you, as she said. Okay, he said what? Accept it for her. Okay, and you can say that what? Then when he says it, accept it, he means accept it as the shaliach said, that the woman said, that he said accept it as the woman said that you should take it. He means to say what? Accept it in order to take it. It's ironic. He was responding to what she really said. So when he said accept it, he said accept it and transfer it. Right, and transmit it. But you can't prove that if the woman said accept it and the shaliach said what? Bring it, okay, and he said here, take it the way she said, you can't prove it with it, because then I can say there the shliach is really saying what, that as he's really saying that he should be a shliach as the woman really said, a shliach for accepting, and not the way the shliach said in her name. And therefore, what, the second that she gets it, she'd be divorced, and he can't go back. Now the Gemara wants to bring another famous argument, okay, and that is back to what we discussed earlier. New points. We never proved that. This point is out. The point of whether we follow the true instructions of the sender or whether the transactor is following the true instructions or the instructions as rendered by the proxy is still up in the air. But now we're back to the old case. Remember, we said we debated whether holech is kazachi or not. If I say take this, when I say can take it, also mean what? Carry it could also mean accept it. Right? It could. The Tana Rabbanan, we learned his kabbalah giti. If the woman said receive my get, okay, and the shliach said b'yishtachamer is kabbalah giti, and the shliach said the truth. He said your wife said accept it. V'hu omer holech, and he says b'tein lo, take it and give it to her. Zechila, acquire it for her. V'skabbalah, accept it for her. Ratza lachzor lo yaser. If he wants to go back, he can't go back. Why? Because she received it. That's the first opinion. So therefore, what we see, we said take it is good, but we're not. So therefore, you see what taking it is the same as what is the same as receiving. Rabbi Nassan says no. Holich v'tein lo. If he says take it and give it to her, ratza lachzor yaser. If he wants, he can go back. It's not called taking. Is not the equivalent to receiving and go back until she actually gets it. Okay, zechila. If he says acquire it for her, it's kabbalah, accept it for her, so then he can't go back. But taking it is not like what? It's not like
because
receiving.
He's saying, I don't want you to receive it on my behalf.
Right.
I only accept you as a luck of
Right. So the Tanakama holds what? Holech is kazachi. Take it is like is like acquire it. Rabbi Nassan holds what?
It's not.
Yeah, Rabbi Nassan holds that take it is not like acquire it. Then we have a third opinion. Rabbi Omer, he says, Bakula, no, in all the cases, whether he said take it and give it, take it, etc. So all the cases, he wants to laugh, so he can't go back. In all those cases, he can't go back, which seems to agree with whom? With the Tanakama. That what holech is not like acquire it. But there's only one case where he can go back. If his husband said explicitly, he said out now, I don't want you to receive it on her behalf, but rather take it and give it to her, so that he can go back. But at least we see that Rebbe holds Rebbe holds just like the Tanakama, that holech is not acquired. Rebbe says Rebbe behind the Tanakama. So how can Rebbe be a repetition of the first opinion? The Gemara says, I'll give you two answers. One possibility I can answer. You're right. He is the Tanakama. He just wanted to tell me that if the husband does say, I don't want, then that works. Okay.
He goes further than the Tanakama.
It works. Right. Alternatively, no, the other possibility is no, Rebbe is not a new opinion. It's just really it is repeating the same halacha, and it's just letting me know that he is the author. Ibailu, the Gemara had the following problem. Now remember, I discussed this yesterday. Heilach is a funny word. Hey, here this is unto you. Here this is for you. Hey, here this is lach for you. This is for you. So we saw that we had a debate about the word what? Holech. We could say take it, transport it can mean take it, or transport it might not mean take it. But how about halach? Here this is for you. Is that a stronger indication of recipient or not? So Ibailu, that the Gemara had a query. Halach, the Rabbi Nassan, according to Rabbi Nassan, who holds holech, when he says transport it, it definitely does not mean receive it. According to Rabbi Nassan, Kazachi Dami, maybe even Rabbi Nassan would agree that when you say hey loch, this is for you, because that means acquire it. Oh love, okay, Kazachi Dami. I know that hey loch and holech have the same rule until he says what is zachi, accept it, or his kabo, I take it. It's not a taking, it's always a transport. So the Gemara says, let me see if I can solve the problem. Tashma, let me bring you a proof. His kabo gets us in the Ishtim. We learned in our Mishnah that when the husband says, accept this get, receive this get from my wife. Holech gets el ishto. He says, transport this get to my wife. In both cases, if he wants to renege, he can renege. If the woman said, what, receive my get, and the shaliach came and told the husband, okay, right, a receiver or a taker, okay.
No, I'm a receiver.
No, he told her, he told her one of the two, one of both of them. Well, it's a lachziyah, so he still can't go back. No matter what, he cannot go back. Right. My love. Now, what's the reason? What are we talking about? Okay, behelach. It must be talking, since here, I don't want to assign, I'd rather say that an unsigned Mishnah is according to whom? To everyone. Sometimes I'm forced to say that an unsigned Mishnah is according to a particular opinion. But I'd rather say that anything that's written stam is according to whom? Is according to everybody. My love. So wouldn't I rather say behelach instead of saying what it's talking about holech? Why don't I say it's talking about what? Behelach. This is unto you. Here, this get is unto you for my wife. Okay, Rabbi Nassan, and it's coming to teach me that what? It's Rabbi Nassan that even Rabbi Nassan who holds that what, that holech is not zachi. Okay. Okay, here he's saying what the halach is zachi. Otherwise, because why should I attribute the Mishnah to a single opinion of the rabbis against Rabbi Nassan? I'd rather say it's everybody. So it must be Rabbi Nassan, and it's what it is. Halach. Here it is unto you. So I solved my problem. I said, no, I don't have to say that. Holech, I'm not bothered. I could say it's talking holech like it said. The Rebbe, and I'd rather lose the point and say it's Rebbe, even though it wasn't signed, than to have such a hard-pressed explanation as you as to change the circumstances. Let me take 1 minute because we're early. We're certainly not late. I want to explain something. There are two kinds of explanations in the Gemara, in the whole world. We have Perush Meruvach and Perush Dachuk. There are two ways to explain. A Perush Dachuk. One is satisfactory, Meruvach, plenty of room, and the other one is hard pressed. Now, the fact that something is hard pressed doesn't mean it's not true. It just means that it's not strong rhetorically. Often a crazy argument is the truth. You understand? Yeah. What do you mean, Noah? I didn't do it. There was somebody else. Somebody else was there. You didn't see it. Sometimes the craziest point is the truth. It's just not a strong argument. You understand? Well, we didn't see anybody. You see what I'm saying? Don't miss it. Weak rhetoric doesn't mean falsehood. It just means not a strong argument. Sometimes the weakest argument happens to coincide with what? With truth. And sometimes the strongest argument coincides with falsehood. It doesn't prove it. But our first job is to rhetorically evaluate every argument. In general, a perish meruvach, a satisfactory explanation, is stronger than a hard-pressed explanation. Why? Because a satisfactory explanation
by more people.
Yeah, why? Because here it reads the words as written, and it doesn't do two things. One, it doesn't change the normal meaning of the word. I don't appeal to a special non-standard. Oh, that's the special kind of. I don't change the normal meaning of the word. And secondly, I don't supply circumstances that aren't stated. And I'll give you the example in 1 minute. I'll give you an example. Let's say we have a text and it says, "Oh, Maisha went to the gym and lifted up 2,000 pounds." That's insane. We said that's crazy. So that's great. Hey, lift up 2,000 pounds. What's going on?
But
so
he
here,
used the lever.
So for example, so let's take a look. So for example, one person they could say, they said 2,000. They didn't mean 2,000. They just meant they lifted up a lot. It was just an exaggeration. That's one type of hard-pressed explanation. The second, that's called a simple perish dachok. The second type is called an ukimta. You've seen that word in the Gemara. The second type of hard-pressed explanation is an ukimta. What's an ukimta? I don't twist the meaning of the words. I explain circumstances that are not in the text. I said, "Oh, no, that was with a lever," or "Oh, that was on the moon." "Oh, that was underwater." You're saying, okay. So now, so a perish dachok either uses a non-standard meaning of the word, so it appeals to it's a hard pressed, or it leaves the words alone but adds circumstances that were never.
Which we do all the time.
Yes, we do, because, and I want you to understand this again, truth and rhetoric are not synonymous. Rhetoric is a pathway to truth, but sometimes a far out point happens to be the truth, and sometimes the most satisfactory explanation is false. Be careful, Rabosai.
Don't all the newscasts. All the newscasts.
Sometimes the thing that's most reasonable is false. It's often the truth. I want to tell you something. I'm not the fastest davener, but I'm also not the slowest. And in the base medrash of my Rebbe, where I learned for years, the base medrash was in an L shape. And it made an L around the courtyard. So the place where I learned and I davened, I could look out on the courtyard. And I finished one essay before everybody else, and I was looking out on the courtyard, and someone on the upper floor had washed their floors. You know, in Israel, everybody washes with a squeegee. So you wash the floors with water, and then you squeegee the water into the drain. So somebody squeegeed the water from the upper floor into the rain spout, and it came down into the courtyard. And I watched it, and the water made the most improbable path and formed a lake in a way that was impossible. It seemed like it almost went uphill and formed a lake in a certain area. And after the lake had been formed, I said to myself, I bet not one person will believe me, will believe the true pathway that this took. They're all going to believe it took what looked to be the obvious pathway. So after davening, I stood by the door and I asked all my friends, how did the water get from the rain spout to to this depression? And everyone said the wrong way. Everyone said the wrong way. Okay. It's sometimes what's unlikely, and you should know, there's a famous writer, his name was Arthur Conan Doyle. He was a doctor, and he wrote Sherlock Holmes. Yeah. So at one point he writes the following. He says, an average person, if you show them a number of components and ask them when those components interact, what the result will be, many an educated person can pretty much tell you what's going to happen. It's not that hard. If you're educated and you see certain components, you put them together, you can tell what's going to happen. And the Gemara says, what? Ezuhu chacham, who's considered to be a wise person? Haroas anola. One of the qualities of a learned person is they can anticipate the outcome, not by prophecy, because they can, with logical analysis, they can see that certain components interacting will lead to a certain result. But he says the opposite. If you show somebody a result and ask them what components brought it about, he said that's a much harder job. You understand? That's a much harder job. In any case, so here, what I'm trying to tell you is the end. The Gemara says, listen, what was the fight? Would I rather change the word and say it was holech, and it was according to everybody, which is makes me happy, but is a bad explanation. When I say bad, it's hard pressed because I had to change the language. Or would I rather take the unpleasant reading, which is that even though the Mishnah was written unsigned, it was really only according to an individual opinion, but I leave the words alone. And that was the toss-up between these two answers. The lesson I taught now is very important, extremely important for everything that we do. Throughout the Shas, this is a fight. And often, you remember, the rabbis are holy and angelic, but they're humans. And the rabbis themselves at a certain point are on the firing line because it just comes down to a value judgment. And one says, listen, if the more reasonable way in this case is to take the hit and offer and change the word. The other one says, no, the more reasonable thing in this case is not to take the hit and have the uncomfortable circumstance of a Mishnah being according to an individual when it wasn't signed, because it happens. Okay, and all of your arguments between the rabbis, and later when we advance, Mitzvah Hashem, I'll be able to show you on paper how to identify these points, because these are the Torah that God gave at Sinai. In other words, the interchange of value judgments is what we received at Sinai. Value judgments, it's a list, and I'll discuss later how to identify them, and that's how we know what the conclusion of the Torah is, what the word of God is, and that's how we know what the halacha is ultimately. Okay, Toshma, come, I'm going to bring you a proof. Again, we're still trying to look, does Rabbi Nassan hold that holech is better, that halach is better, halach, here it is for you, is better than holech. Toshma, come, I'll bring you a proof. We said, at the end of our Mishnah, Lafikach, we said, since if the husband said, take it, and he can't go back. Pardon me.
No,
The wife appointed the shliach. The husband said, take it. He can't go back. If he says to her, I don't want you to receive it, he says, I don't want you to receive it. I want you to take it to her. So then he can go back. Why? Because by definition, he's rejected the recipient. Taima the Amar Yafshi, but the only reason why he can go back is he said, I don't want you to receive it. But if he didn't say, I don't want you to receive it, he can go my loves. Again, let's do the same thing. The only way to read it that way, according to everybody, is what? That it said what? He was saying what? Here it is unto you, Rabbi Nassan. It must be, and to make it according to everybody, saying even Rabbi Nassan agrees that what? That Halech is good. Gemara says love. No, Holech. It's still talking like I said in Holech, but Rebbe, and it's Rebbe, I'll take the hit in that way and say that it's Rebbe and we don't know. Toshma, again, I'm going to try and show you what's the rule of Halach. Here it is unto you, according to Rabbi Nassan. Is it better than take it or not? Toshma, come up, bring you a proof. We learn when the wife says, accept, receive my get. And the husband said, Holech gets Elisha, and the husband said, take it to her. Okay, Yasser wants to go back. He can go back. Why? Because he wasn't giving it to receive it. Hey, okay, and then it says, and listen to this. Halach gets Elisha, and now we learn what. But if he said, "Here is this get for you, for my wife," okay, so he can't go back. Man shamasle, okay, damba b'holech, okay, who's now you can't sneak out. Who would tell me if he says take it? Okay, take it. He can go back, and okay, because taking is not like accepting. It's Rabbi Nassan v'kamar, and here it said clearly what the halach when he said, "Here is unto you," so you can't go back. And now we've indeed proved the point. That what here it is unto you, according to Rabbi Nassan, is really accepted. Shema Minah, the says, indeed, you finally proved the point. Itmar, okay, we learned the following. His Kabbalah Giti, okay, the woman said, accept and receive my get. And the shliach says the truth. He says, your wife said that I should receive the get. He says, take it and give it to her. Okay. Amar Rabbi Abba, Amar Rabbi Amar Rav. He says what? Nasa shlucho ushlucho. Ironically, at the same moment, he's both her shliach and his shliach. This is crazy. He knows he's her shliach to receive it, and the husband's shliach to take it. Now, what's going to happen? Wait a second. If he's her shliach to receive it, and he said take it, he said take it when the guy received it, it was no get. Okay. So what happens? Okay. We don't know who it is. So what happens if after that divorce the guy dies? What's going to happen? And he left no children. On the one hand, we're going to look at it as what? That she wasn't divorced when he died. That it wasn't divorced. The choletza, so she's going to have to do chalitza, at least to separate herself from the brothers. Why? Because we don't know. We don't know if take it is like receive it or not. So we see clearly that what if take it is receive it is we're up in the
chalitza is a compromise.
As a compromise, but he can't do yibum. Obviously, they can't do yibum because maybe she was divorced. So you see what the member of the Masapka Rav. So you see Rav personally was in the opinion we see Rav himself was personally in doubt whether take it means accept it or not. As the Gemara says, 1 second. He says, how can you tell me that? Why didn't we learn? If a borrower sent the money, he sent the money to the lender, and he said, Holech money l'plani. He says to the shliach, take this $100 to Mr. XY borrowed it from. Shani chayav though that I owe him. Amarav, okay, chayav b'chvayuso. So now the sender is responsible for any accident that happens to the money until it actually gets to the lender. The imbal lachzar, and not only that, if the sender wants to renege and not pay the guy, ain't a chose.
He can't back the shliach.
Yeah. But I mean, say what? He's not going to be able to. He can't go back. So you see that when he told him take it, he was telling the shliach not just to take it, but to acquire it for the lender. Okay. So how can Rav be in doubt? Don't you see?
No, but it's not not completely because he still has a charayis. If he's a shliach, if he's a kabbalah.
Okay, but wait. I want to explain. So what's the point? We see clearly that since he can't renege on the payment, when he said take it, he was really saying what? Accept it on behalf of the lender. Of the lender. So how could Rav contradict it? So how could Rav contradict himself? On the one case, he said he doesn't know. On the other said it goes. If you're in doubt, you shouldn't give money away. So the Gemara says, Hasam, you're making a mistake. The reason why he did that, he really doesn't know. But Safik Mamona Lakula. We always, by Mammon, we go easily. What does that mean? It means that we have to leave it, we have to be lenient and leave it in the hand of the possessor. And therefore what? So since once the shliach has it in his possession, the sender can't remove it from the possession of the shliach, and it goes to the lender. But over here, when it comes to whether the woman is permitted to remarry, etc., okay, that is a suffix of a Torah prohibition, and we have to be stringent. Amar Rav says, "Eina isha osa shliach lekabel agita miyat shliach bala." A woman cannot make a shliach. But let's say the husband said, I'm sending you to give a get to my wife. The wife can't say, I'm making a shliach, you're a shliach, to go receive it from his sender. If the husband said, I'm making a shliach, then the shliach can only give it to the woman. The woman can't appoint the shliach to receive it and have the husband shliach give it to them. Rabbi Chanina Amar says, no. Isha osa shliach get shliach bal. No, a woman can too even the husband said, I'm sending a shliach to give it to you, and she says, I'm sending a shliach to receive it from your shliach. My time at the Rav, okay, we have a reason. Why does Rav say that she can't do it? So I have two possibilities why Rav does it. One is rabbinic, okay, and that is what? Not rabbinic. One is because it's not rabbinic. No, one is because it's psychological. Because maybe if she does that, the husband is not really going to divorce her. We're going to make a mistake. It could be what? When the husband says, I'm sending my proxy to divorce you, by her sending a proxy, she's showing that she does not deign, she will not stoop so low as to receive it from a shliach. She's sending what? She's sending her shliach. He says, you're insulting me. If you're insulting me by not receiving the get to hand, I'm not giving it to you. So one way is if we're really afraid it's not a get. Alternatively, but another way is what? Really it is a good get, but the rabbis make it not a good get because it'll cause a mistake in another case where it really isn't good. We're going to say it's not good here, even though it is good, lest we make a mistake in a very similar case where it isn't good, and we'll say it's good. Why? What's the case, for example, if a husband throws the get into the woman's courtyard, is she divorced? Yes. If a husband throws the get into Reuven's courtyard, and then the woman buys the courtyard from Reuven,
no,
she's not. Why? Because he didn't give it to her, and he didn't put it in her yard. Okay, so therefore what? So we're afraid that if over here, if after the husband makes the shaliach, she makes a shaliach, even though it's really not a problem, because her shaliach was her shaliach when the husband shaliach gave it. But it looks similar to the case where the husband threw into the courtyard and only later the woman acquired the courtyard, which is no good. So since I'm afraid in that case, you'll say it's good when it's no good. Here where it's good, we say it's no good. Ma'abinayu, what's the difference between the two reasons? That one way we said it's really no good, like I told you, because the husband is insulted. Or one way it's good, but we say it's no good. Okay, I'll tell you what. In a case where she first made a shaliach to receive it, mikara, and then the husband made a shaliach to send it. So if you say it's a question of insult, he's still insulted. But if you say what it's a question of, it looks like a case of where she acquired the courtyard later, it doesn't apply, didn't see it. A certain guy sent a shaliach to his wife through a proxy. Also, the shliach went, the shliach found her kneading dough. Amar, so the shliach said to the woman, here's the get that your husband sent you. Amar, she said to him, she said, look, let it stay in your hand. Okay, you be my receiver. You did your job. You're my husband's sender. Now be my receiver. I'm busy. My hands are full of dough. Leave me alone. You here, do me a favor, receive it for me. Rav Nachman, Imita, she's not very upset, is she?
Well, maybe she is.
I know. Just these. I think she's not very perturbed. She's busy doing the dough. They had, I'm not a fan of Yiddish humor really because it's very bitter, but sometimes it's funny. But Yiddish humor is very, very bitter. So Jews suffered. They did suffer. Jews suffered in Poland and Russia. So there's a guy when I grew up, we eat borscht cold, but in Europe, borscht was hot. People ate hot borscht. So there's a guy, he's an inn, the Jews, when they traveled, they went to a kosher innkeeper, get a little something to sustain themselves. It's like it's freezing cold, mamish freezing outside. The guy comes in to get himself a hot borscht, which is a big deal. The innkeeper gives him a hot bowl of borscht, and in the meantime, a messenger comes, and he says to the guy, Rabbi, I'm so sorry. And says, I'm sorry to bring you the news, your wife died. The guy says, and he keeps eating the borscht. So the innkeeper looks at him and he says, you didn't hear it? The guy said, your wife died. He says, don't you think for 1 minute when I finish this borscht, am I going to let out a yell? He says. First, I got to finish the borscht. I'm Rav Nachman, not throwing away the borscht. I'm Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman said, if that's true, so he says what? It's okay. So he says, Im itala Rabbi Chanina. If you hold like Rabbi Chanina that a woman is allowed to appoint a shaliach to receive the get from the husband's shaliach to bring the get,
only do part of the trip.
Right. Okay. Right. Right. That he can. Avid ba'uvda. So therefore, if that was the halacha, I would say that this is a good get. She can make a shliach to receive it. Amarle said, Rabbi said, no, I'm sorry. Even if the halacha is like Rabbi Chanina, are you really telling me you call this a good get? This is the shlichus that can't be good. Any shlichus where the shliach can't come back and say, I did what you told me, is not it. So over here, since the husband told the shliach to deliver the get to the woman, what he actually did was received the get for the woman. When he receives the get for the woman, he can't go back and say, I gave it, he received it. Okay, and therefore what? He says it's not good. So they brought this case in front of Rabbi Ami, and he sent back that what? He said to them, he said to them, okay, she's not divorced. He used the argument to me. He said, since the shliach can't come back and say I did my job, it's not a good shlichus. It's not a good get. When they sent to Rabbi Chiya, he said, let me think about it. They sent the question again. They sent the same question again after he's thinking. He says, why you keep sending me the question? He said, the same way you're in doubt, we too here are also in doubt. It's about why? Because this is davar shebe'erva. This is okay. Have a davar shebe'erva. This is a matter of sexual prohibitions, relationships. But davar shebe'erva, any case of a sexual prohibition or abortion, choletzes when we're in doubt, the woman she does chalitza, right? But we can't be sure she's divorced. Have a uvda. Once there was such a case, okay, where she told the husband shliach to be her shliach to receive. Rav Yosef Bar Shmuel Bar Marta get. So Rav Yosef Bar Shmuel Bar Marta he made him give another get, and if he didn't give a get and he died before he ever gave another get, the chalitza when he died, he made the woman do chalitza, which says Tati. I understand what you. So I ruined it. I ruined the joke. What I mean, after you gave a get, you can't. She can't give it. If he gave a get, she was divorced. Why she doing chalitza? Yeah. The answer is Michayim. Okay. So you're making a mistake. Get Michayim. It's not both at once. If he didn't die, he gave a get. The chalitza. If he died before he gave the get, then she had the chalitza la chamisa after he died. Hahuda vikarla nafasa. There's a woman, her name was Nafasa. And also Sadi because of Tafasa. When the husband said to witnesses, go write a get for my wife, they made a mistake. They wrote a get to who? Not to the wrong name. They wrote Tafasa. Rav Yitzchak Rav Shmuel Bar Marta B'Shmei Rav says, okay, they already did their job, and it's too late. They can't write another get. They wrote a get. They wrote a bad one. Tough luck. They no longer have any agency. Maskif Lo Rabba. He says, come on, Rabbi, what are you talking about? Me Carmel Kusuva Chaspa. Did he tell him write a piece of junk? Write a piece of trash. He told him write a good get. Okay. Okay. How did he tell her write trash and give it to her? Of course they told him to do a good job. They can write a new get. Amar Rabbi says, Vadai ikasu sadi gita ma'aliyah. Had they written a good get, a kosher get, but it was lost, I'll say them shlichus, and then I'd agree with you. They can't write another one. But over here, where they wrote a bad get, they can write it. They keep writing as many get as they want until they write a good. The husband said, "Go divorce my wife." So they can keep writing them. Okay. Maskif lo Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman said, "Come on, Alisha Kasha." Me kamalu kisvu ba'anchu b'kisaychu. Did he tell them write a get and put it in your pocket? He said write it and give it to the woman. Okay, and what since they did it and she was divorced with that get, it's not a good get. Rav Nachman said what? Kosvin v'nosnin afilu me'apamim. I said what? He said. Therefore, what doesn't make a difference? They can write it even 100 times and it's not over. Rav Nachman, he asked this query: Kisvu utanu. Okay, to l'shliach. Okay, if he says to the witnesses, write a get and give it to the shliach that I appointed. Mahu, what is the law? Okay, can they write another get now? Okay,
where he lost it.
Yeah, why? Because since he said what, write it and give it to the shliach, give it to the shliach. Okay, they didn't. Saluki salaku. Okay, therefore what? Okay. Once he intended that once they give it to the shliach, it's over, and they can't write a good get after that. Al dilma or no, when he said what, give it to them, he wasn't saying what, I only make you shluchim to give it to the shliach. He's really saying, I'm making you shluchim to get done. I'm just not going to bother you to go transport it. But of course, I want you to do whatever you have to do to make it good. So which is it? Did he really say that the shlichus ends once they give it to the shliach, or did they meant do whatever you can? Amalei Ravina Ravashi said to him, Yolich law. Pardon me, I'll say, okay, yeah, we don't know. Amalei Ravina Ravashi, so he said to him, when he said to the shliach, okay, he meant that they are over, okay, even if you say what, that even if they're over, once they give the shliach, we can still be in doubt. When he said to them, Yolichla, okay, he said, give it to the sheikh and he will take it. Mahu, what's the law? Okay, then maybe they meant clearly what? He only meant what?
Unlimited.
Right. It's only to the give shliach, and therefore the loss is no good. Or maybe he meant to say again that he never meant that and they can't. The answer is Teku, we don't know.
We'll stop there.
Yeah, that's a big page, Rabbi was saying. Okay, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Why don't we show another line or two and go to the next Mishnah?
I didn't go to the. I did go to the Mishnah.
Oh, okay.
I did. I did. It didn't look like it, but I did.
Okay. All right.
I did. I did it quickly. Sorry. I did.
Thank you, Rabbi, your own time.
No, you're
Thank you. I'm
actually
on time.
2 lines before the
I did stop. I stopped
Yeah,
early.
2
Oh,
lines
sorry.
before the Mishnah.
You stopped
Oh.
two
Oh,
hours.
I'm sorry.
Shimon
You're
Ben
right.
Gamliel.
Okay, sorry. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. No, hang on. Stay tuned. Take that back. But Shimon Gamliel in there, he says, "Af Omer is totally gitty." Even when a woman said, "What? Take my get for me." Okay, she means to say when she said, "Take it." We said
Take
that
it
what
and
the Mishnah
bring it.
said. It really means what? Accept it. Even Ratzah Lazar, even where she said, "Take it." If you want to go back, she can't go back because she really meant take it and what? Receive it.
Yeah.
Tana Rabbanan, okay, so we learned the following. Totally, Visali, if she says, take it for me, lift it up for me, should be for me in your hand, and all those are languages of accepted. I'm sorry, you were right, I was wrong. I didn't go to the Mishnah. Now I went to the Mishnah. Thank you. Okay, Shkar. Okay, Shkar. Sorry, I apologize.
What else could he mean if he says take? What else could he mean besides take?
But he could
what other
mean
meaning?
take it as her agent,
Or
and
take
it's
it
a
to deliver, or
reception,
take it to deliver
and
it.
that means they're divorced that minute. Or he could mean take it and
deliver-
bring it to her, and it's
deliver
a
it.
2-week trip, and they're
Deliver.
still not divorced.
Okay, so either that's the end of the line or the end of the line is.
Later.
No, that's an ambiguous word, so you don't know.
Right.
Otherwise, if it was not in,
Where she meant take it and she had the right to appoint them and it's nothing, and it's all nothing. Or she had the right to put them, it's nothing. Yeah,
Okay.
all right. Rabbi, so today, this is just a big page. Nothing you can do about
Have
it.
a good day. Be well.
You as well, Bob. Thank you.
It's all good stuff.
No, but when it gets to the Agadata,